right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is our first virtual Manufacture Your Career panel discussion, so new experience for all of us here. My name is Mandy Barker, and I'm the Program Assistant for the Southwest Virginia Alliance for Manufacturing. We are a nonprofit organization based in Abingdon that serves all of Southwest Virginia. One of our goals is to promote manufacturing as a great career opportunity, and that's the point of the panel today. You're going to hear from some really impressive manufacturing professionals and learn more about the benefits of a manufacturing career. I'm going to ask questions for the first 45 minutes or so, and then I'm going to turn it over to student questions or faculty questions. So if student or faculty have questions, please leave those in the chat box for us. Panelists, if you would like to leave your contact information in the chat box, that would be much appreciated in case anyone wants to contact you later. I also want to mention that in the chat box, you will find information about the Southwest Virginia Workforce Division, which has many fast-track manufacturing programs for those who might be interested. And the new Virginia Ready initiative can provide a stipend to those who finish these credentials who are unemployed or underemployed due to COVID. And once again, all that information is taking place in the chat box. So I would like to start by welcoming our panelists. We're going to start with Tyler Vandall. He is a manufacturing engineer at the PBE Group in Tazewell. Tyler, will you briefly tell us a little about yourself and the PBE Group?
Sure. So I'm a recent college graduate. I just graduated from West Virginia Tech back in May and didn't start work here at PBE until July. My degree is in mechanical and aerospace engineering, and it is a bachelor's degree. PBE Group is an electronics manufacturing company that started out local here in Tazewell, Virginia, and we are now a global company with offices all around the world, and our CEO is actually from Australia. So we branch out in mining, tunneling, and then in the past they did government contracts, but I don't think we've done that in a while. But mining and tunneling are our two biggest areas.
All right, thank you. And we do have a lot of manufacturing facilities in Southwest Virginia who are global. I think that's something really interesting for people to know.
It is, yeah.
All right, next we have Charles Pruett. He is a certified welding inspector at Tadano Mantis Corporation. I would just like to note that Charles is a great example of starting out in a company at an entry-level position and then working your way up in the company. So there's plenty of room for advancement in manufacturing. Charles, will you briefly tell us a little bit about yourself and about what Tadano Mantis manufactures?
Sure. My name's Charlie Pruett. I'm currently the quality assurance team lead man. I'm also a AWS certified welding inspector and AWS certified welding educator. I've been here at Tadano since '05. I started out in the shipping and receiving. So I've worked my way up from there to the CWI and the quality assurance team lead. We build Teleboom crawler cranes. Our headquarters is in Japan under Tadano Limited, but we're a part of a conglomerate called Tadano Mantis.
All right, very good. I want to start out talking about some of the misconceptions people have about working in manufacturing. People often think manufacturing is all men, working on an assembly line in a hot, dirty facility, making very little money. And you know, Charles and Tyler on here, we all know that's not true. But it's a very negative image, especially when I talk to students and even teachers sometimes. So Charles, will you tell us a little bit about some of the misconceptions associated with manufacturing and what the reality of working in manufacturing is?
Well, in my experience, a lot of people, when they think of manufacturing, they think of smokestacks and just like a steel foundry type environment. And it's it's so broad of a spectrum of things in manufacturing. I know that here at Tadano, it's nothing even close to that. We have some of the state of the art equipment. I mean, we work with equipment that has not even been around but a year or so. So, I mean, it's in my experience, it's nothing like what people perceive manufacturing to be.
Yeah, I do think it's definitely very different. While you were talking, we actually had two more panelists pop on here. So Erik Miller, I believe you're on here. Erik is the president and owner of Wolf Hills Fabricators in Abingdon. Erik, will you please tell us a little bit about yourself and about Wolf Hills Fabricators?
Sure. Sorry, I was a little bit late. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, sound great.
So by education, I'm an accountant. I've had an accounting degree, and I thought I was going to be a CPA at one time. I'm from Ohio, moved down to Virginia, worked for a bank out of Roanoke, and then went to work for one of my manufacturing customers down in Bristol. They sold that business to some outside fellas that closed it. And then I started up a business sort of like Tyler in the mining industry. We built battery powered vehicles that they use underground in coal mines because they don't have a lot of airflow underneath the ground there. But in the last presidential administration, the mining industry took a big dip, and now we've converted ourselves to a steel fabricator. We've got a couple different divisions. We still make some battery powered vehicles for the mines, but they're very limited now. We do large fabrications, and we own a company called Platnick Crane and Steel, where we build bridge cranes, and bridge cranes are used by other manufacturers in the area. We've got some up at Tadano, as a matter of fact, in Richlands. And that is how other manufacturers move material in their shop. So we've got a specialty division of cranes. We do some work with a large company called Komatsu, who builds some specialty underground equipment called a longwall mining conveyor systems. So we do that. All that's here in Abingdon. We're locally owned in Abingdon. I own it. We're about 50 employees. We've got an office staff like every company does. We've got an accountant, an engineer, a safety person, an environmental person. We've got welding inspectors, and we've got probably 30 welders on staff. We've got some quality people and supervisor type people. And most everybody lives within a couple counties. Some people move in and out from Washington, Smith, Russell counties, and some folks stay put, but we're much like everybody else. We hire folks from the community colleges, from the local, maybe Emory and Henry, or maybe King College for some of the office jobs. But we generally stay between 50 and 70 employees. It goes up and down from every couple of years, depending on how business is. First half of this year was pretty tough on all of us. We've been fortunate to come back around and having a very busy second half of the year at Wolf Hills Fabricators, and hopefully it'll continue through the election into next year.
Yeah, and Erik, I just wanted to point out, we were talking about misconceptions about manufacturing. People tend to think it's an assembly line, making one product over and over. But your company is a fabrication shop, right? So you get to do a lot of different and innovative products.
Yeah, we are the opposite of. I mean, there is some manufacturing that's repetitive, but our business model is the exact opposite of that. We only build things that are engineered and designed for custom applications. So we will, like the cranes up at Tadano Mantis that Charlie's got there, they're specific to his building. A crane that we're doing in Marion this week is specific to their building. So we don't build any two cranes that are the same. A lot of our fabrication work, because we have a history in underground, goes into tunnels. And all of our tunnel work, every different tunnel has a different diameter. It might be a water tunnel or a highway tunnel or a sewer tunnel. every one of them has a different diameter. So everything we build is basically one-off and custom designed, and it's unique. I think our welders cater to that. There is some folks that do production welding and they build the same thing on a regular basis, and some people like that. They want to come to work and do their 8-hour shift, and but our guys get a package of drawings that's been designed, and they get a kit of parts, and they need to put all those parts together. They may work on a job for 2 or 3 weeks, and when they're done with that job, they'll never build that again. They move on to something different. So there's very little repetition in our business.
Yeah, no problem. All right, we also have Lisa Jones with us today. She is the Director of Human Resources and Safety for Hapco in Abingdon. So we're going to be asking her a bunch of HR questions later. Lisa, will you please briefly tell us a little bit about yourself and about what Hapco does?
Certainly. And can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Good. I sound like a Verizon commercial. I'm sorry. I'm the Director of Human Resources and Safety for Hapco. We are in Virginia, Texas, Minnesota, and China. I've been in manufacturing for many years in many ways. I have done corporate sales, corporate training, human resources, performance consulting, and so forth. One of the things that I tell people, and you just hit on it earlier, is manufacturing is not just a male environment. Admittedly, I have been in organizations where I was the only female, but I tell you, I wouldn't miss manufacturing for anything. People ask in the tough times why people stay in manufacturing, but you have to be in it to get it. And we want to keep manufacturing in the United States.
Yeah, what are you producing at Hapco? Will you tell us a little about that?
Certainly. We produce here aluminum and steel poles. We do light poles and flag poles. We do business all around the world, and it's just fascinating to us where our poles go. We had an engineer who went to Florida probably 4 years ago. He saw poles that were still standing no matter what the weather from 1965.
Yeah, so once again, someone else sending products out globally. So from here in
Yes.
Southwest Virginia, we are having that global reach.
You know, it's very interesting, I must tell you, during the times when people could go on vacation, they would take pictures of themselves by our poles and send them back to us.
That's very cool. I love that. All right, so we've talked a little bit about some of the misconceptions about manufacturing. And along those same lines, I would like to talk to Tyler next. Tyler is still pretty new to his manufacturing career. And Tyler, you said you have a mechanical and aerospace engineering degree. Was your plan to work in the manufacturing industry? And how has working in manufacturing maybe been different than what you expected? Have there been any surprises for you?
I think this company in particular was a little bit of a surprise, and it did turn my view on manufacturing upside down. What we mostly do is build small electronic devices, mostly safety devices. So it's not large scale projects. We do build a lot of them, but they're very small in size. And because of that, I think you think manufacturing, you think the automotive industry, which is what I'm really interested in. And industries like that where it is a huge factory, maybe there are assembly lines with a lot of people there, but we have a shop floor, and all of our manufacturing is mainly wiring, soldering, board components, things like that. So this has been very new for me, to be honest. I'm a little bit computer illiterate, so it's been a huge learning curve. But I would say my interests mainly lie in the automotive industry, but specifically motorsports on that competitive level.
Right. Has there been more technology in manufacturing than you would have expected?
Here at the PBE group, most definitely, yeah, everything. We have a group of systems engineers, electrical engineers, and what they do is program, and so all of that technology goes way over my head. I can't give details on that, but yeah, the technology here at PBE group anyway is mainly computer based, but even on the shop floor and everything like that, we have all the necessary tools, you know, that makes the job easier.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Charles, I would kind of like to touch on work atmosphere. And I'm directing this question to you because I have met several people from Tadano Mantis while I've been working in my current position. And I always get the impression that they're just very happy to be working at Tadano, that it's a great place to work. So what is the work atmosphere at your company like, Charles?
Well, for the most part, it is a happy, it's a healthy atmosphere. I
Yeah.
feel everybody that I work closely with, we all have the same end goal in mind, which is to build the best quality and safest product we can for our customers. And I mean, it gets kind of competitive, you know, you want to be better than the, you know, but we do a good job and we take pride in it.
Very often what I hear from manufacturing employees is quality and safety. Would you agree that's top for most companies?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So while we're kind of talking about safety, another misconception is that a lot of people think manufacturing is dangerous, and that's, you know, not true. So many safety precautions in place. Every time I have toured a facility, they have told about their safety programs. And employees are expected to wear steel-toed shoes or ear protection, eye protection, even hard hats in some places. And usually that's something we kind of talk about on these panels. But today I feel like we should talk about safety regarding COVID-19. I feel like you can just not have a conversation these days without addressing it. I would assume it is pretty easy to deal with office workers during this time. Most of them can work from home. But I'm very curious how you all are handling the people who work on the shop floor. Lisa, will you start us off talking about what you're doing at Hapco for that?
Yes, I must have skipped that course in school because I was not prepared for this. A pandemic is a strange animal.
Right.
I don't want to jinx us, but I want to say I am so proud about what is going on here because the health department has told us that we have such a relatively small number that they can't believe it, but they know it's true because they've been with us every step of the way. We have in Virginia the Infectious Disease Preparedness and Response Plan. This is part of a book that I started in the beginning, which is very large now. We do everything we can for best practices using masks, sanitizing. We have 2 cleaning companies who rotate coming in here. Our employees do an outstanding job of what I call self-reporting. If there's something that fits in the category that might be a symptom of COVID, they tell us. We do self-quarantining. We have the rapid response for tests, and we are so blessed.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a great job. How many people do you have on your shop floor?
We have about 190 on the shop floor. We have 273 in the organization. And we do the distancing. We have little blue tape that we put on the tables for lunch. And we have employees, I can hear them going up and down in the hall saying, hey, lunch is over, put that mask on. Yeah. And it's, as you all have alluded to, it's for the love of the coworkers that we take care of each other, the families, and the community.
Right. Erik, I'm going to ask you this same question. I have visited your facility a couple times, and I know that it is a pretty open floor plan. Have you had to make any changes? And about how many employees are working on your shop floor right now?
Yeah, so we've got 40 on our shop floor, and frankly, the COVID, being a small business, it scares me to death as the owner because I'm, you know, we've got orders, we've got deadlines like everybody does. And I'm scared to death that if we get it and everybody gets it, we have to shut down and then we can't meet delivery dates. And that would be detrimental, if not entirely fatal, to our business. So the first thing we did was took our 40 people and split them into shifts. So normally we're only a day shift group. And just by seniority, we split to a day shift and a second shift, with the thought being if somebody got infected, brought it in here and gave it to everybody on that shift, we'd at least still have 50% of our workforce. So we have probably had 6 or 7 different people. No, we've not actually had anybody test positive, but we have had several people that were exposed to somebody that was positive. And we followed the 2-week quarantine procedure and required them to get a negative test. And even if they had the negative test, they still had to stay off work 14 days before they could come back. Fortunately, the way that has worked, the government, we have paid people for that time at home, which isn't something we would normally do. But as Lisa mentioned, it's a pandemic, and it's only ever happened once in any of our lifetimes. So we're, it's extreme measures. In theory, the government's saying we get to recoup that money on our taxes next year. We'll see how that works and if it actually happens. But we felt from a risk standpoint, it was better to pay the people so they would voluntarily stay home than, force them to come in here with the risk that they were sick and infect everybody else. So it's been tough. The other thing I'll say, a lot of our shop floor folks are welders. So they've got a welding hood that covers their face for most of the day. They do lift that up. We've also just closed the break room altogether and told them to take a break at their workstation, told them to eat lunch at the workstation, and we've staggered all the start times. The other sort of silly thing in a manufacturing environment is people clock in and clock out, and we were doing a really good job and then finding out that everybody was coming in at 7:30 in the morning and standing 2 feet away to clock in. So we told everybody to stagger your start times 5 minutes, so they would go one by one at the time clock. And because we don't have hundreds of people, we're able to do that. But yeah, it's a big deal. It's changed the way we do business, but sometimes life necessitates these things.
Absolutely, and that's a lot of good ideas to have to come up with, I feel like, at the last minute. I never would have thought of the time clock.
Well, I didn't either.
All right. Charles, what about at Tadano Mantis? Any changes there?
Absolutely. We have a mandatory mask rule. Everyone has to wear masks at all times on the shop floor. We do the social distancing. We have in our break room, we have stickers on the tables that are at least 6 feet apart to make sure everybody's staying far enough apart. We have hand sanitizer everywhere. We have different companies that come in and clean during the day and then after we leave. So we're doing a lot to try to keep this pandemic out of here.
Right. And Tyler, you started at the PBE group during the pandemic. So do you
No, I lost you there for a second.
Sorry. You started at the PBE group a few months after the pandemic hit. So do you feel like they're taking appropriate safety precautions there?
Definitely. I know just before I started, they had actually sent our manufacturing group home, everybody on the shop floor at least. And I don't know how long that lasted because I wasn't here. But once I started, everything was up and running again. There is mandatory masks in all public places. The lunchroom and break areas are all taped on the floor to social distance. And most people do eat at their own desk. So, yeah.
Lots of changes. And all these are great examples of how employers really focus on keeping their employees safe. So, obviously we think manufacturing is great. Lisa, this next question I'm going to direct towards you.
Okay.
No matter how great manufacturing is, people want to know how much money they're going to make doing it. Like, that's the big question. So since you've been working in manufacturing for over 30 years and you are the HR representative on this call, will you speak to us about the salary and the benefits of working in manufacturing?
Yes, and that's a fair and legitimate thing. As I'm talking to you, I want to turn so I can read something off a poster that I have in my office. It says, "Our contribution in the world, we create a lifetime of safety, opportunity, and pride." We created that well over a year ago because we want individuals to know, in addition to the money that they make, we have pride in them and what we're doing for our community. We are a little different than perhaps some of the other folks here, I don't know, but we are a union environment. So we negotiate for the hourly employees the money that's involved. Obviously, it's different for salaried. But one thing that we have found is we are in the ballpark of our community, higher than some, lower than most, but it is on an hourly basis. We are so also proud of the fact that we've been able to offer a bonus annually now for several years to everyone in the organization, and it did not used to be that way. So I will say that we offer a fair market amount of money for our employees, plus the benefits. The insurance industry calls our insurance the Cadillac plan because it is a very strong plan for benefits. We offer health, dental, eye, and then certain types of supplemental insurance, some of that at no cost to the employees.
So lots of great benefits. Vacation time, retirement. Can you speak to that?
Yes. And in the plant for the hourly employees, we do call that vacation plus personal time. And yes, some of that is driven by the union. In the office, we have PTO, which is paid time off. That is a bank that puts everything together, whether it's sick leave, vacation, you need to go have your car fixed, whatever it is.
And as you are hiring in people, what are some of the things you look for outside of technical skills? Can you speak to some of the what we call soft skills?
Absolutely. I tell people very openly that manufacturing, you either get it or you don't. And I want to see people who have a passion for what they do, whether it is a welder, quality, general labor, whatever. And we want someone who has good attendance. They are of no value if they are not here. And we talk very openly in the orientation and in the interviews. I do want to say we started doing something about a year ago that I'm proud they let me do, and that is interviewing everyone. Even if you're a temporary employee who comes here and you've worked for us for say 3 months, we interview you. And we make sure that this is a person who has the passion, the drive, and the interest in making us as good as we can be. Also at Hapco, you have to have a high school diploma or a GED to work here as well.
Okay. Erik, high school diploma for you required as well?
Yeah, we don't really have much issue with that. I will say, I'll sort of add on to what Lisa said. The old days where somebody were employed, there's still some 20, 30-year employees, but in the old days, somebody would come work for a manufacturer and they'd stay there their entire career. There's very few people like that anymore. And if your company's not paying a market wage, if you don't have comparable benefits to the other either manufacturers or other entities in the area, people don't stay. And that goes both ways. I mean, if you're not a company doing well, you can't expect your employees to stay there forever and be paid less than people down the road because people can come and go pretty easy. I know Tyler said he just changed jobs, and you have to keep people satisfied. You got to keep them happy. You got to keep a good work environment, and you need to pay them fairly and have fair benefits. On the flip side is, depending on the time, there's a pretty fluid job market the other way. I mean, there's a lot of people that, if you show up at a job and you don't do well, there's other people that are willing to work harder for you. You'll get replaced. So it really goes both ways, but it's really a fluid job market nowadays. People come and go, and you might work somewhere for 3 or 4 years, or you might just stay 6 months, or you might stay 20 years. And it just changes in the business environment. Industries change very quickly. You might be super busy one year or one day, and a year or two later, it might all change depending on any number of outside factors.
Mandy, may I have a follow-up to that?
Absolutely.
Until I came to Hapco, I had never worked for a company, and this is to Erik's point, that had people who had worked here so long. We came to this location in 1962. We have one gentleman who has worked here over 53 years, one who's worked here over 52 years, and they are still here. They are admittedly not at the same pace as they used to be, but we have found jobs for them that they can do because we love and cherish them very much. And I think that makes a lot of difference, because we have younger people who come, and yes, they need the money, but they want to work at this place where people can retire, and you don't hear that much. Erik, I'd like to do kudos to you. Erik and I have never met in person, but he is a very strong business partner. We've had a chance to have communication over time. I value him and I appreciate him as a professional partner.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Lisa. That was nice.
You're welcome. You can pay me later.
All right, before I go on with questioning, I just want to remind everyone that we will take student or faculty questions at the end of this, and you can put those in the chat box. I'm actually not seeing any questions in the chat box, and I'm sure we've touched on something that has hopefully triggered something in your mind. Also, Lisa and Erik, you are welcome to put your contact information in the chat box as well, if you would be interested in having students contact you all later.
Excellent.
All right, so we'll move on. The next logical thing is to talk about getting started in manufacturing. Most of the people listening right now will probably be obtaining certifications or associate's degrees. We also have some high school career and tech students on here right now listening. So Charles, I'm going to start you out with this one. Does your company offer internships for students? And how much on-the-job training were you offered at Tadano Mantis?
I don't think that we offer any internships that I'm aware of. A lot of the on-the-job training I got here at Tadano Mantis. My CWI I got was employer funded. So, I mean, they really work to develop their employees that have the ambition to further their careers. They do a good job of trying to help you along if you have the will to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's very important to point out. How long have you been at Tadano Mantis? Is it 15 years?
Yes, since 2005.
Yeah, so you've had a really great career there. Erik, how about you? Do you offer internships, educational opportunities?
We don't do internships. We're pretty small. When we have an opening, we generally just go out and find a person directly to fill that position. But we do, there's a lot of on-the-job training. I mean, people come out of either, be it 4-year degree or associate's degree, with a general knowledge, but every business operates its own way, and you sort of need to indoctrinate people to sort of get into your mode of how you do things and specifically how they do those jobs. So we work closely with people for a long time. I mentioned earlier we had a second shift now. So we start them on the day shift until they sort of get into the groove. And then if then after that they go to the second shift. But yeah, we work a lot with new people until they can sort of stand on their own. So there is a lot of on-the-job training.
And Lisa, it's pretty much the same at Hapco, isn't it? A lot of on-the-job training.
It is on-the-job training. We are doing several things. We are creating work instructions to help with on-the-job training. We have our first ever welding training. I call it welding the Hapco way. Steel welding, of course, is more prevalent, but we do a lot of aluminum welding that people don't know. So if they can pass the weld test, we give them 2 weeks with our top welders and quality department. We do actually have intern opportunities occasionally. We had a wonderful person several years ago who came from Virginia Tech as an intern in the summer, and he never went away. We finally got to hire him because he kept coming back. And so that is also very important to us.
Yeah, that is good to hear. One of my questions for you was actually going to be, when a certified welder comes into your facility, do you give them special training to do it the Hapco way? And that is something you do, isn't it?
Yes, because it is interesting to me, and I mean no disrespect, but the person who has never done aluminum welding can pass the aluminum welding test. But the gentleman that helps them has forgotten more about welding than most of us will ever know, and he guides them so they can pass the test. But knowing that there are a lot of intricacies that they have to learn, we're also hoping to do it later on spinning the Hapco way, sanding the Hapco way, make a deep dive into other parts of our company.
Right, so lots of opportunities there.
Yes.
When you started the PBE group, did they talk to you about opportunities or additional trainings they could offer you?
I don't remember if they did or not, but I know if there is anything that I wasn't sure how to do, it's been on the job training. And of course, I was assigned under a senior manufacturing engineer who he came from a background where he used a lot of CNC machining. And that's not something I've got to do yet, but I know that is in the process of getting started. So I guess more peer training.
So mentorship opportunities once you get the job.
Sure.
Yeah, that is great to hear. Once again, I want to throw it out there. Any questions in the chat box? I am not seeing any right now, so please feel free to answer. I want to talk about how manufacturing has changed in recent years over time, not just with technology, but with the pivots that have been made with COVID-19. Charles, you've been at Tadano Mantis 15 years. What changes have you seen in that time?
Well, a lot of changes to do with COVID. I mean, I noticed that the global market that we're a part of, the changes in it kind of drives the changes here. So a lot of those changes have forced us to make changes on our scheduling and production and things like that.
What about demand? Do you think there has been increased demand in your time there? Has the company grown?
Absolutely. When I started, I want to say we were producing around 20 something to 30 cranes a year. Now we're up to 60, 70, even higher.
That's amazing. That's great to hear. Erik, how about you? Have you made changes within your company over the past few years?
Yeah, our biggest change is sort of from an industry standpoint, because we really, being in Southwest Virginia, used to depend on the coal industry almost exclusively, which was at the time extremely profitable, great group of people to work with. But that's really fallen out of favor now. And there's a lot of companies in Southwest Virginia, Southern West Virginia, East Kentucky, so within 2 or 3 hours of here, that made almost all of their living selling to the coal industry. And that is just not an option anymore. It stopped being an option, and it really looks like on a global basis, it's never going to come back. There's just there's no appetite for coal burning power generation anymore. So that's probably the biggest change. We used to even, and the other odd thing was the coal industry paid their employees very well. It's a very hard job, and we used to have to compete with wages from the coal industry that were high dollars. So that has disappeared. I will say every year if I've been in this 20 years now in manufacturing, every year health insurance goes up. It goes up, and the benefits you get from your health insurance goes down. 20 years ago, you used to go to the doctor, it was 100% paid for. You might have had a small copay of $5 or $10, and you never had to pay for a prescription. It's just not like that anymore. Now your deductibles can be thousands of dollars. It's even hard to find a $500 deductible plan. And even if that's your deductible, there's still all kinds of things they won't pay for, and they exclude, and they don't do. And the frustrating part is employers and employees pay more for that service every year, and you seem to get less and less and less. And then the other thing, wages in my time have probably gone up and probably almost doubled. I mean, last year was a very good job market. 15 years ago, I think, a minimum wage that a lot of people started at was $7.50 or $8 an hour. I know there is still jobs like that, but in manufacturing, I think the lowest you would see anywhere is probably $12 an hour, and most people are starting at about $15 an hour. So it's just changed and it evolves, and there's no reason to say after this COVID issue sort of clears up that I don't think it will go right back to continuing to increase. The wages will go up and demand will continue, and insurance costs, I guess that's just inflation, and it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of inflation. If you look at the government stats, they say 1 or 2%, but it seems like the real cost of everything goes up a lot more than 1 or 2% every year.
Right. All right. Thanks, Erik. We do have some questions, so we will answer as many of these as we can in 15 minutes. First one I have here: how can someone find out about job openings available? Virginia Alliance for Manufacturing actually has a career page on our website that you can visit at any time, and I'll send you more information about that at the end of this presentation. Erik, where do you advertise your jobs at?
Well, up until about 5 years ago, it used to be in the newspaper, but now there's no such thing. I don't think there's any such thing as want ads in the newspaper anymore. So we do a lot. I mean, keep in mind, we're just 50 people. So we only hire probably, if we have 10% turnover, that's 5 people a year. So we only hire somebody about every other month on a regular annual basis. So we generally, we do have a posting when we have one open on the SVAM website, but we've also used, I'm trying to think of the internet. Lisa, you may have to help me.
Indeed is popular.
Indeed is where we would post it, or
Yes.
we would just know somebody that's looking for a position and hire them directly.
Right. And Lisa, you list on your website, don't you?
Yes, we utilize your service and our website. Monster used to be important. It went out of favor to Career Builder, which went out of favor to Indeed. We sometimes do use the local Bristol paper, and I'm sorry, not for that service, but because they will send it out to multiple online services for us. So there are different ways you can advertise, and we do use a temporary service as well for hourly positions.
Charles, what about Tadano Mantis? Are those listed on your site?
Yes, ma'am, I believe so. I know we have hired through temporary services before. A lot of people go through the VEC and put in applications. I know our HR department visits a lot of job fairs and things like that also.
Yeah. Tyler, what about the PBE group? How did you find your job?
Uh, well, they do list on their website, but actually, I found this job through my brother-in-law,
Okay.
who is a systems engineer here. So that's how I found out about it. But I also, during my job hunt, because I assume there's some people about to graduate, Google has their own career search function. So you can just type in manufacturing engineer or whatever position you're interested in your area, and it'll pull up from Indeed, Monster, or even the company's website.
All right. I did not know about that. Great information. So some of the other questions, some of these are similar. We have, what characteristics do you view as most important for success and advancement? And how can a student working to secure training and credentials with no experience get considered for one of these positions? Lisa, will you start us out on that one?
Even when I was looking for a job years ago, I always heard you have to have the experience to get the experience to get the job. And it is very difficult for hourly individuals. It is a unique glimpse into our facility, because we do say it's only a temporary job, but we do hire them. And again, it is truly the basics. If you have the personality to persevere in a manufacturing environment, you'll be here every click of the clock and you will do the job to the best of your ability. We will train you how to do it. We have even trained individuals who have never welded before to be welders. We also give advancement opportunities. We have a man who had been in the plant for many, many years, and he taught himself how to do CAD. He is now in our engineering department. So if you can get your foot in the door to any facility that we've talked about today, that is a good learning opportunity. And I bet every facility will allow advancement opportunities as well.
That is what I most often hear, is just get your foot in the door.
My first job in manufacturing was as a switchboard operator. And the woman accidentally said, "Do you know how to use a telephone?" So I didn't lie. I said, yes. I didn't even know what a switchboard was. So I started there and moved. I see Erik's laughing at me, but you've got to be creative. You have to start somewhere and then move up, if you wish, in the company.
And Erik, whenever people come into your company, how do you consider people that outshine others? What would you consider that to be?
Well, everybody on this call is young and eager and about to graduate, but you'll find in the workforce, not everybody is young and eager and easy to, and wants to please. Some people are very difficult, and it is, personality skills and learning how to deal with other people, with other adverse people. I mean, not if you're in an environment with 50 or 100 people, not everybody's going to get along, and some people can deal with that and handle that. And the people that handle that well are typically those that move up into supervisor positions and move up in a company, because it's a hard set of skills to manage people, to get them to do their jobs successfully, but not let that become an adversarial relationship between the supervisor and an employee. And it's tough to do. It's not for everybody. And there's a lot of folks at all of our companies or at your university that, they're not people persons. They're not social. They don't, they want time to themselves, and they want to go home on the couch and watch a movie, and they don't want to deal with people all day long. So it's hard to find supervisor level people that are successful, can move up and can deal with other difficult folks.
So interpersonal relationship skills.
I would say that is that and a good attitude. I mean, the companies can teach you the rest, but some of those, personality skills companies can't teach.
Tyler, what do you think it was about your skills, like the soft skills we've been talking about, the interpersonal relationship skills, that landed you the job at the PBE group? Because I'm sure there was a lot of competition for a job like that.
Sure. I think one thing is our design process is very CAD heavy, and that's something that I have a lot of experience in. Actually, I started out when I was in high school in a certification program through our local vocational school, and got certified as a CAD draftsman. So, yes, I just graduated college, but I have close to 10 years experience in CAD. So that was definitely a plus, but I think work ethic gets noticed, and that's something I am prideful about. I do feel like I'm a hard worker, and I've been working since I was 14, so I've been all over the place, a lot of different jobs, and I think that looks good, and I hand in my resume that I'm, in my young 20s, but have had quite a bit of experience.
Right. So even if you don't have specific job skills, do you think those just experiences in the past helped you get this?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. And Charles, what about you? We talked about how you have really moved up the ladder at work. What do you think people found about you that got you promotions?
I would agree with what my fellow panelists spoke to. A lot of it is attitude, a willingness to learn different parts of the job, ability to think on your feet, and good problem solving skills. I think that goes a long way. And like Tyler said, work ethic, that's a big part of it.
Right. Okay, Erik, I'm going to ask you this next one. Since you are the owner, and I know this is something you think about all the time, do you expect manufacturing to grow or remain steady in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Well, it's that's a hard question because I'm not sure, and I think the election, no matter what side of the election you're on here next week, I think has a lot to do with it. For a long time, manufacturing jobs have gone overseas, but I think what has really happened is the low value added manufacturing jobs have gone overseas to take advantage of lower pay rates in other countries and less regulations. So I think a lot of that transition has already happened, be it China or Mexico or whatever, pick whatever country you want to. What I think will continue to grow in the US is upper level of what they sort of reference as advanced manufacturing, more value added manufacturing. So the real simple, easy, repetitive jobs seem to have gone overseas already. So what's left is somebody like Tyler that can use a CAD system, people that have engineering in their products, that put a lot of value into that you can't make in another country just very cheaply. So, and those are the jobs that, people generally want. They pay better. You have to have some level of education to fill those jobs. So that part of manufacturing, I feel very good about. I think the trend of low value added will continue to move overseas. There's just a lot of regulation, no matter what administration wins. You can't pollute groundwater, you can't pollute the air, you can't do that. In other countries, you can still do that, and it just adds cost. So you need to, if you're a manufacturer in the United States, you need to, focus on cleaner, environmentally sound, value-added manufacturing.
Absolutely. I'm getting ready to wrap up here. I did just want to touch on one more question myself. Do any of these companies offer some kind of assistance with furthering education or allow employees the opportunity for advancement? And pretty much all these companies we have on here said that they do. on the job training is something that you absolutely get. So, I mean, there's definitely room for advancement. All right, so we are right at 11:30 now. This hour has flown by. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the panel and got some good information. Once again, before we close this out, in the chat box, you can find contact information for our panelists and information on the Virginia Work Ready initiative and those things that I spoke about in the beginning. So I would like to thank Jessica Dotson and the Southwest Virginia Community College for hosting us today and for handling the technology for this. I would also like to thank our panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedules to participate in this event. It is much appreciated. If you have further questions, if you would like to look for those available career opportunities that my organization posts, or if you would just like to learn more about the Southwest Virginia Alliance for Manufacturing, you can always visit our website at swvam.org. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Good job, Mandy.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Nice to meet you all.